Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone joining us from around the world. I'm Tom Gaudette, an applications engineer in the product management group at Kepware. Today we'll be discussing KEPServerEX version 6 release. We have a lot of exciting information to share with you today, but before we get started, I do want to let you know that this webinar is being recorded and will be distributed to all registrants via a link, as well as being posted on our website and YouTube. For those of you interested in more webinars from Kepware, visit our training spotlight page on LinkedIn. Today I'm accompanied by applications engineers from other departments, including Philip Bard and Mike Latham. They will be helping to answer your questions about V6 as you type them into the questions pane. I'm also joined today by John Harrington, who is the Vice President of Product Management. He'll be talking about the new features of V6 before I demonstrate some of the new functionality. John?
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Today we're going to talk about how we've truly enterprise-enabled KEPServerEX and built what our customers are telling us and what we feel is the next generation platform for industrial connectivity. About 2 years ago, we started looking at KEPServerEX, and we recognized that we hadn't had a major architectural change in the product or a major version change since 2009. So we started looking at it, and we started to talk to our customers to understand what sort of challenges they were seeing and to see if it still matched with KEPServer. As we talked to them, we heard about the customer base had really changed since 2009. They were much more globally dispersed in their operations and in their use of KEPServer. KEPServer back then was primarily a driver connecting a single application to a handful of PLCs. And now they were thinking they were implementing many more servers within their factories, whereas back then they maybe had 10 or 20 servers. Now we are hearing of customers and working with customers who had 100 or 500 or even 1,000 servers throughout their global operations. And they were thinking of KEPServer differently. They were thinking of it as a connectivity layer within their IT operations. It was the layer between the hardware on the factory floor or in the oil field or in any sort of industrial environment up to the application layer, where they could make real business decisions on running their business. They also talked a lot about security and how the security environment had really changed over the last 10 years, and they were very concerned and they needed tools for that. At the same time, we recognized that the marketplace was talking about new things as well. You heard about the concepts of industrial IoT, Industry 4.0, smart manufacturing, and there are many other terms that people are using. All of them are really talking about some common environments. They're talking about a lot more volume of information at a much higher velocity and a much wider variety of information, many, many more sensors and devices, and many, many more applications that are looking to make use of this data. When they talk about solutions like KEPServer, they talk about an edge gateway. And they see us as the edge because we're that connectivity point between the hardware, the machinery, the machine controllers, and their application layer. They also come at it from primarily an IT-centric view. So they're looking for a lot more simplified deployments and making the tools IT-centric and simpler to implement. It's no longer just a controls engineer who's deploying the software. And again, with them, security is a critical issue because they're connecting that controls network to the IT network, and in some cases, even to the internet. So when we combine these themes, we came up with a short list of primary themes to drive version 6, streamlining the management and deployment of the server, securing the server and the data, making it much more scalable, recognizing that we live in a global environment, and making it more IT friendly. And these were the key themes which led to our development of the next version architecture for KEPServerEX version 6. The planning of KEPServerEX started over 2 years ago. And it's got about 18 months of effort and over 50 man-years of engineering time. We impacted the entire product with going down to the lowest level and making changes to every single driver, and making changes to all the UI and many different things. So broad sweeping changes, and really with that key mission of streamline it, secure it, make it scalable, globalize it, and IT friendly. So the key projects in KEPServerEX were multilingual support, a configuration API, OPC UA improvements, licensing, improving the user interface, making some packaging changes, and then two things that you see on the right of the screen. We've rebranded Kepware with a new logo, and we've rebranded KEPServerEX with the EX logo. So we're really excited about all these changes. Now we'll dig into each one of these projects. Kepware lives in a global world, and we've become mission-critical solutions for many of these global factories. In order for factory owners to utilize us in mission-critical, highly important systems, they must have their users be able to interact with, understand, read, and configure the server. So they came to us and said, we need this in our local language, and we've delivered on that. We've delivered on that starting with Japanese and German. We focused on our largest selling drivers, the suites for Modbus, Allen Bradley, Siemens, and BACnet. We also focused on OPC UA as it's widely used in our customer base as a tunneling solution. And for our Japanese customers, we translated Mitsubishi and Omron as we've seen high uptake in that market. Beyond the drivers, we translated a lot of the user interface within the product. So all of your configuration menus, your wizards, the property pages to be able to configure or make changes to the drivers, any help documentation, installers, licensing, and event log. So it's really a complete experience in a local language. Next project that we worked on was a configuration API. We had a lot of feedback from customers who were asking us for other ways of configuring KEPServerEX. As you know, since its original architecture, KEPServerEX needs to be configured by logging into the same server that the runtime is running on. You log in, you edit the system through a thick client, which provides you all the abilities to configure or make changes to or monitor your devices in the network. Well, as we talked with our customer base and they started using us in a lot more areas, we heard from people who ran operations in the field who said, we have technicians who hook up the hardware, and when they're complete, before they leave that oil well, they want to be able to make change. They want to be able to validate that the data is able to move through, that they've hooked up everything properly and it's working properly. But we don't want to give that technician who's in the field admin login rights to our data center, to a server, so that they can make changes to a server that's running the entire field. We'd like to give them either a SCADA screen or a simple web page where they can put in their base information to get that piece of equipment up and running. We can apply our corporate standards, and all of a sudden the systems are just communicating. and the hardware is operational and they can validate that. At the same time, from our OEM customers, we were hearing things like, we love to use your product and it provides us great connectivity, but we need to provide a user interface to our customers that's highly simplified and doesn't allow them to change many of the parameters within the product. And we'd like to put our own brand on that user interface and preferably have it go through our own applications that the customers are used to interacting with. We also were talking with the IT folks because we're having a lot more interaction with IT. And they were saying things like, in order for this to be an enterprise-enabled system and a mission-critical system for our business, we need to restrict who has access to it, and we want to provide a secondary configuration panel, which allows them to do very specific activities where we can log exactly who's doing that, and we can restrict what they can do. We combined all of these requirements together, and that's our and came up with our configuration API. So this API is a RESTful API over HTTP, and it allows you to configure your server in such a way that you can add channels, devices, tag groups, and tags. And you can not only add them, but you can also make changes to them, you can read them out, and you can delete them. So complete configuration of your connectivity network. Of course, security is critical, so we added a number of security features and a number of layers which allow you to provide multiple layers of security in securing the system and not expose it to third-party configuration changes. OPC UA has become a widely used protocol within our industry. Kepware has always been a strong OPC vendor of solutions. We're seen as one of the leading OPC vendors in the world, and we continue to do that with our implementation of OPC UA. We've supported OPC UA for a number of years, but our initial deployments, our initial implementation of it, we found as more and more customers have used it and they've used it for more critical applications, it wasn't able to scale the way they'd like, it wasn't as performant as they'd like, and it didn't provide them the diagnostics and the information that they'd like. So we took a step back with our UA implementation. We reconfigured the protocol stack and rebuilt it, and now we've implemented that to provide us an extremely solid foundation to build up additional OPC UA functionality. Because we see OPC UA as truly driving operations centers and operational applications into the future, and it's a critical protocol to move data out of KEPServerEX, but also to consume data into KEPServerEX. We're starting to see more devices supporting OPC UA, so we use our OPC UA client driver. We see more applications using it. They use our OPC server, and of course we can tunnel between two different KEPServer instances using OPC UA. So we improved the performance, we improved the stability, and we provided an awesome access to diagnostics that will really provide a much richer environment for customers who need to troubleshoot challenges and build on a solid foundation for future more functionality. Licensing is an interesting feature within any product. It tends to be one of the first things that people do and how they interact with it. As such, you want it to be very secure and stable, but you also want the user experience to be very friendly. Kepware has a very secure and stable technology that we built our licensing on for version 5, but it wasn't really optimized for any specific experience of our customer base. So it tended to be very labor-intensive or many steps to perform an action, which when you took a step back and looked at it, you said, we should really be able to optimize this with modern technologies. So Kepware's done that. we stepped back and we said, how can we take steps out of the process? How can we simplify this for our customers? How do we do that on the deployment? By doing things like, if you're online, all you have to do is work in the utility and it can automatically push that request file up and receive the response file back from our servers, and you don't have to manually move those files. Also, if you're deploying multiple licenses, why not do them all at once in one big transaction? And over time, support and maintenance, if we've already secured that server, we just need to tell it that it can be updated, that it's under support for another year. It doesn't need to reach out to our servers to find out if it's under support for a year. So we put a lot of effort into the license utility and those actions. We also put a lot of effort into our website, making it much more of a self-service portal, a place where you can go to find out information on your servers. It's not just about the license, it's about the entire asset, that server, to see what licenses are on it, what's covered under support, and what's not. And we did some work in KEPServerEX. We decoupled the server such that one licensable feature can time out and the entire server doesn't shut down. In addition to making these changes on the underlying architecture, we also made a number of user interface changes. These changes really streamlined the ability to configure and deploy the server and to interact with the server and understand what's configured and what's going on. We unified all of our plugins into the tree so that you can see at the very top level within your project, you can see not only your connectivity, but you can also see the plugins that are configured, and you can better understand what's going on. We standardized on a property editor, which allows you to rapidly go in, make changes to properties, apply them, and make changes across your entire project. And finally, we standardized the wizard to just walk you through a much more logical approach to configuring the project. Beyond the product changes, we made some minor changes in packaging. Security has become a very important topic, and we felt that it wasn't fair to hold the security policies plugin as a secondary purchasable product, and that it should really be available with all of our products, with any license. So that's now a default feature in the product that's available with all licenses. The security policies plugin allows you to, at the user level, define who can browse and view, edit, and make changes to tags from the channel, device, and tag level, as well as who has access to that data from a real-time access. We added the ability to purchase subscriptions. Now, this has come up a lot with a lot of discussions around IoT, where the IT departments are really looking for better ways to purchase and implement servers like KEPServer. A lot of the applications are now transitioning to subscription-based pricing, and so we added this as an additional option in addition to our perpetual licenses. So it's not one, it's both are now available. Support and maintenance is mandatory. We've been selling support now for 8 years, and we felt that many of our customers have now migrated, and it's just not fair to the customers who aren't purchasing support. We want to provide them quality support, and we want to get them up and running quickly, and we also don't want to allow them to jump ahead of others if they didn't pay. So we added that as a mandatory item for the first year. And finally, with all these new features and capabilities, we have had a price increase. All the new prices are available on our website. You can go download them and look at them. But we feel that these features are really separating us from any of the competition and providing a much more full-featured and is still priced very competitively in the marketplace. Last thing I want to talk about is operating system support. We did make a few changes here. We're no longer supporting Windows XP. We go down to Windows 7 and Server 2008 R2 and above. This is because we've migrated to some of the newer tool sets from Microsoft in our development team, and the security and the capabilities just weren't there for those older operating system support. Microsoft has dropped support for them. Actually, they dropped support a number of years ago, and we felt it was time to move forward. The install is a little bit bigger than it used to be. That's primarily because of all the localization capability. We also re-architected some of our help manuals for the drivers to provide you a much more, all the information is within the driver help experience, instead of forcing you to transition between the driver help and the server help. So lots of changes there, but it did increase our download a little bit.
Good.
So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Tom, and he's going to demonstrate some of this functionality.
All right, so the demo, it's what you're all here to see, and we should go right into that and take a look at our brand new KEPServerEX version 6. Now this version, as we pop into it, you're going to notice the first thing, as John already mentioned, is the new icon and a whole bunch of new icons as well, bringing those different plugins into the tree view that you see on the left-hand side. We recognize the need to have some visualization associated with those so you can easily recognize the functionality associated with each one. Now we understand that on a daily basis most customers are only using items under the connectivity area here, which are your standard channels, devices, and tags. So we provided a way to go and change and remove from your view some of those additional plugins that you don't use on a regular basis. You can clean up your view and keep the things that you need in focus right there in front of you and still have access in the future to those different items. That connectivity node is where channels and devices are maintained, as I mentioned, and just like in V5, a right click in the detail view can give you the access to making a new channel. So as we go into the channel wizard, you'll notice that that has changed as well. We feel like we've streamlined this a little bit. We've also added some additional functionality at the end. I'm going to go through really quickly and show a Modbus device or channel creation. Right there, and give it a name, and we're just going to slide right through because what I want to show is as we go through you'll notice that there are a couple of screens where the text is a little longer than the window, but that's okay because we've introduced a sizable wizard, making things a little bit easier. And the reason we did that really was for this last page. We recognize that as you go through a wizard and you get to the final summary page in version 5, there might be a few things that you wanted to change, make some edits to, and that was a lot harder in version 5, having to go back through the wizard. So what we've done is created the ability for you to go in and change everything within this wizard with the exception of the driver selection for the channel level. So that's some great functionality. I'll enable some diagnostics captures here, and we'll get on with the next portion. Once you have that, again, the device wizard, I'm just going to fly through this really quickly so we have an example. I want to show some of the functionality down at the tag level, and to do that we want to get ourselves into a state where we've got some tags to create. We've got a Modbus device started here. Now the tag creation is a little bit different as well. I'm going to resize this a little bit for you. And you'll notice the big change between this and the previous tag creation wizard. It looks a lot like the rest of the property editors that we're going to see here in a moment. And I give ourselves an address and click OK, and we've got a tag. Now you'll notice that in the tag wizard there weren't some features that you're used to, such as multiple tag generation as well as duplicates. We've added those up here in our toolbar so you still have access for creation of those there. Now, as we all know, when you make a project in your lab or in your test environment, when you send that out into the field or into the factory floor, you're going to have to make some changes. KEPServerEX version 6, we've made those changes a lot easier. As within version 5, you can find your properties on each device or channel, but the great thing we've created is this new property editor. This property editor is used across the entire product to make changes. So if we need to change this to be the particular fan on a line that is going to be out in the factory floor, fan 1, and we need to change the IP address, we can do that here and click apply, and that's live right behind you in that tree view. This property editor is not modal. What that means is that you don't have to close it every single time you need to make changes on different portions of your project. You can simply click on the tree view, and now you've come to the section for the channel level where you can make changes for that particular part of the project. Clicking apply once again, those are actively put right into the project and connected down to the runtime. Now, as you go through your different devices, it's always helpful to get additional help with certain features for some of the more complex drivers that we have. And as you would expect, the help button for the project for the property editor brings you right to the screen within the help file that you're looking for. As John mentioned earlier, we brought some of the functionality that was previously all contained within server help right to the individual help files for the drivers, allowing you to get specific driver help for those common properties. Now, help is great, but it's even better when that help happens to be inside of your native language. By coming into settings, I'm going to change our language over to German. The other option is Japanese. I'm a little more comfortable with the German language than I am with Japanese, so we're going to choose that one. And you'll see that right away we've got some changes within the user interface. Without closing it down and opening it back up, we've got a lot of the directive text. Our menu items are also in the native language as well. Oops. Sorry about that, folks. Click the wrong button. As well as the property editor. So when we come into the scan mode portion that we were just in a moment ago and click help in German, we get the German help file associated with that particular property. Now for the rest of the demo, I'm going to switch us back over to English because unfortunately my German is not very strong. So multilingual support is a great thing. It allows us to be able to not only have native language speakers use the server in their native language, but additionally, because of the functionality of switching back and forth, here at Kepware and tech support, we can assist native language speakers easily with their projects by being able to switch back and forth as well. So quite often, I'm going to skip over to OPC UA at this point, because I want to show some additional functionality. And to do that, I'm going to open up our demo project that I've got created already. And push that down to the runtime and get that going. So I've got an OPC UA client here called OPC UA Expert, and if I connect up the server, we'll see that we give some data up to that client. But what we really want to see is that additional functionality we've created within Diagnostics. So if we go into OPC Diagnostics, initially we're going to see nothing there, and that was because within the project properties, I haven't enabled the Diagnostics capture yet. To do that, previously you'd have to come into the File menu and go down to Project Properties. We've added the functionality of being able to right-click on the project node and go right into the properties there. So I'll enable the log diagnostics and apply that, and we should see some diagnostics start to come through. So these diagnostics are specifically for OPC UA at this point because that's the only client that I have connected. I'm going to disconnect this client to show some of the requests that come through and see that you can view some of the details of those events. But if you have multiple clients connected, specifically OPC UA or DA, you might want to filter out as you're doing diagnostics and trying to determine some issues between your client and the server. So we've added some filtering abilities, and not just at the high level of being able to decide between OPC UA, DA, or HDA, but we've also added many different levels below that. So you can filter for very specific events within our OPC diagnostics. One of the things that some of you might have noticed as we were spinning up the demo project and the OPC UA client was that I had a little bubble show up right here showing you that one or more features are time limited. Now, John mentioned that we've changed the way that licensing occurs within the server and that only specific features stop working after their timer is up. Well, it's really useful to know what those specific features are. So we've added a couple of system tags, and as I open the quick client, we're going to take a look at them at the system level. Those system tags are the time-limited features here. So that right there shows us that the IoT gateway is currently time-limited, and it has its own timer. As we spin up and go into using more different drivers, you would have additional drivers set into that list with their own individual timer associated with them. So what we want to do now is after we've created this project and we've got some test run done, and we want to license it and have it available for our factory or our environment. So the next thing we're going to show you is the licensing. Our license utility has also gotten a facelift. You'll see that it's a little cleaner than it was previously, and we've included this perform licensing operations online when possible checkbox. This allows you to simply connect to my Kepware via the license utility and license the activation IDs that you have associated with it. So we're going to go ahead and activate a couple of products, and we're choosing the I have one or more software activation IDs. Hardware keys are still an option, so you click that radio button if that was your choice. Now, over here I have an email that is identical to the email that you would get from our orders team once you've purchased a product, and I'm going to copy and paste that activation ID in. Now you'll notice that I've purchased two different licenses for this. We've got an IoT gateway as well as a manufacturing suite. So instead of doing a couple of round trips as version 5 would have required, I'm going to put both of these activation IDs in by simply line separating them. Many of you remember that have licensed previously that the location of the server and the description of the server are items that you would fill in at the My Kepware level and give you the ability to have a little more detail associated with your licenses when you look them up again on My Kepware or when you go to transfer them or renew support for them. But here we allow you to do that right within the license utility, so you don't have to go to My Kepware at that point. Entering your new username and password for your My Kepware account, real simple and easy. You can also create an account by clicking on the Create Account button. That'll open up the default web browser. Next, you'll connect to the internet, generate an activation request, send that up, and then we'll get a response from the My Kepware site. And once that response comes back down, we'll take a look at the activations that we have. So we've got manufacturing suite up and running, IoT gateway, we've got support end dates that are a ways from now, so we've got some time to work with those before our support ends. And for those of you who are paying attention, in the quick client, the time limited features area is now empty, and the licensed features tag contains both the Modbus TCP Ethernet and the IoT gateway. So those enacted live, and we would not at any point have any stop in functionality from the server if we were running this on the floor at the time. So the next thing we've got to check out here is one of my favorite features, and that is the feature of being able to configure your server from basically anywhere. So we're going to take a look at the configuration API, and to do that we first need to enable it. When your server is installed, it's disabled by default for security reasons, but a couple of quick changes in the settings and we can get that started. We're going to enable the API itself. I'm going to enable HTTP, which allows me to connect in an unsecure manner, just because quite often when we're starting things up and trying to figure out how different features work, doing it in a safe and secure environment where security between the configuration API and your self-built tool is not necessary. You can always go back and add in that security. So I'm going to apply that, and you see we've got a couple of links here for your browser to take a look at some information associated with this REST API. This is a website that is hosted by the server itself, giving you information about the API, all of the supported drivers that you have installed that you can connect to. So this is a dynamically created list. You'll notice that I have all of the drivers available because I've got a full install of the server at this point, and as well as a little more documentation. And this documentation are all the endpoints that are hittable via the API, and we'll show that when I bring up a test tool to start taking a look at some of this information. So I'm going to start off by grabbing this website so that when I open up my test tool, I can enable or hit that website and take a look at that through a different tool, knowing that I then have a good connection to the API. For diagnostics and for building your own tools via the API, we provide the ability to do some transaction logging and maintaining that. So you can request that information from the API itself and receive that back through your tool. And we've also allowed for the ability for certificate management. You can create your own, import some, but initially you'll notice that you have in the background here we've got a self-signed certificate for the config API by default. To get the API demo started, I'm going to open up a open source tool that a lot of the engineers here at Kepware have been utilizing to test and understand the functionality that we built into the API. This open source tool is called Postman. It's freely available on a lot of different areas on the web, including the Chrome App Store. So you can go out and utilize this to start getting yourself familiar with different functions of the API. The first thing I'm going to do is go into the channel section of the API and get some information about the channels that have been set up within the configuration as it now stands. So to do that, I need the endpoint that I'm going to be utilizing, as well as some authentication to ensure that we have an authorized user going into and requesting information from the API. This authentication comes from the user manager in KEPServer. By default, when setting up the user manager or when setting up KEPServer, the administrator has no password. So here I'm just going to use that way into the configuration API. Now, when I do a get down to the channel endpoint for my server, I will receive back information about all the channels that are set up. You see in the response here that we've got the different channels, channel 1, data type examples, and that Modbus that we have created as well. And each one of these JSON objects has within it the properties required not only to modify but also to create channels of that type. And what I really want to show you is that you can go into these individual channels and find more information as you go. So I'm going to put in the Modbus endpoint for that particular one. It's going to spit back not only the information about that channel, but also a project ID. So if you're trying to do a revision, ensure proper revision through changes, the project ID will allow you to do that. Additionally, we can drill down further and find out what kind of devices are available underneath that particular channel. And for this Modbus channel, we have that device one that was created earlier, and all the properties associated with it. Going further into that, we can go down to the device one and the tag level and look at the tags available. And it looks like we have no tags associated with that particular device this time. And if we go into KEPServer and take a look at that Modbus channel and expand that, you'll see that there are, in fact, no tags. So that's a great way to browse the information available within the API, but we also want to see the functionality of producing and creating channels, devices, and tags. So I've got a little more advanced functionality within Postman here in the collections section, where I can have historized information available to me to create the different channels, devices, and tags succinctly. And I want to show you that to you now. I've got this saved body here within Postman. This is going to create a Modbus TCP/IP Ethernet channel. Again, we're going to have to change our authentication to basic and send this down to our server. So when we open up the server again, we can take a look and see this Modbus TCP/IP channel has been created. And I'm going to throw these side by side for us to take a look at as we build this up. So I'm going to go ahead and choose the next section, which is to create a device under that channel, and we'll see that created right there. And as we go into the channel, we can then see the tags that will be created as well. I've got a grouping of tags that I've built up a body for here. I'm creating 10 tags for this particular device. And those tags are then created. So there we've done pretty quickly. We've created a channel device tags for a Modbus device. Obviously, if that device were hooked up to our network, we'd then be able to spin up a client and get information out of it. Now, this is great functionality to be able to do it from pretty much anywhere, but we also want the ability to do entire projects. And for that, Postman has some functionality within it that you can play with as you learn how to create your own projects and web pages that'll be able to do similar functionality, or if you're going to build it into a custom SCADA or HMI system. So what I'm going to do is run this entire section of code through Postman's player, and clicking on Start Test should create the entire series of items I have, creating a ControlLogix Ethernet, Modbus, Mitsubishi Ethernet, Modbus Ethernet, and Siemens Ethernet channels, devices, and tags. So we'll kick that off, and very quickly we see that all of those are created, and underneath each of those channels and devices, I've got about 5 or 10 tags depending on the device itself for an example. So this is some amazing functionality built right into KEPServer. It comes as part of version 6. All you have to do is turn it on and utilize it as you see fit. But I want to show you as well an example of some higher level functionality you can create. So Postman's great. It's a tool, great test tool to learn about and determine what you want to do as far as functionality through the API. But then you can go and build that into your own web page, your own SCADA system or HMI, as I mentioned. And we've had a couple of engineers here at Kepware who've created this example code that we're going to be sending out with a recording of this video, or with an email following up this video, It will also be hosted on our webpage under the V6 website, our webpage on Kepware.com. But this is a quick little view into it, and I want to show once I connect to the server, it's going to build up a tree view on the left-hand side, giving you a look at that tree that is within the server. You can drill in and take a look at some of the different tags that are available over on the data side. You can also make some changes. I'm going to go down to this Modbus device, and I'm going to make a modification to it and change that to, say, Modbus 3 and modify that. And if we go back to the server, we'll see that that has been updated. So there's a lot of back-end code available to you. I encourage you to go ahead and download this example, poke into it, see some of the fun things that the applications engineers have created with this example code. It's built to be a little bit modular, so you can utilize some of that code or ideas in your future projects as well. I do, at this point, I think that's all I've got as far as the API demonstration here. So I'm going to pass this over to John shortly. I'm looking and I see we have a few more minutes to go and answer some questions after John's done. So stick around for that. Our applications engineers in the room are quickly answering the questions as fast as they can. But thank you very much, and I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to John. John?
Thanks, Tom. Hopefully everyone was able to see all these great features that we've been able to add to KEPServer, and they recognize the power that we're able to provide them. We've had some great feedback from our beta customers and from our partners on these features, and everyone's been really excited about the power of these features and how they've been able to really streamline the server, the deployment, and the management, how it's been taken security to a whole new level. It makes the server much more scalable. And of course, with the localization piece, the OPC UA coverage, we're able to support a much more global customer base. And with the API, we're able to support our IT customers and the security for our IT customers that they need. We've been able, we feel that this version, KEPServerEX version 6, is really delivering on that vision of a connectivity platform, enabling you to standardize your layer across your entire enterprise and clearly differentiates us from our competition. So we think this really helps our existing customer base, gives them some great new features, and allows them to continue to grow the deployments. And it also brings us into the industrial internet and smart manufacturing industry 4.0 and really attacks that as the leading edge gateway available. So I hope everyone sees all the great features that Tom was able to demonstrate. We're really excited about this, and we certainly are interested in your feedback. We're interested in you trying this out. We're interested in you implementing this server into your industrial applications.
Thanks again, John. As always, we want to point you towards resources that are available. As you hit up our website over the next few days, weeks, and months, you'll notice that we've got a lot of new content associated with version 6 available to you. There is more to come, so please look for that as well. If you ever need to contact us, here's some information available to you. We have about 10 minutes left for our slotted time. I think I'm going to take about 5 more and possibly pick some of the questions out at this point. And I really want to thank the applications engineers in the room here, Brent Doobie, Philip Bard, Mike Latham, who've been helping me out with a lot of the questions and answering your questions as we go. And we've had a couple of questions about should support maintenance agreement upgrade to version 6 or just the suite.
So my understanding is the customer's asking if they presently have a support and maintenance license and they're looking to upgrade that.
What's the process?
The path forward?
Sure. So if you have a supported license that is supported through Tuesday of this week, then you are eligible for version 6. There is a process to migrate your licenses from version 5 to version 6, and when you do the installation of version 6, we not only at the very beginning tell you you're going to have to migrate your license, but we also provide you with more information about that migration at the end of the installation. So we'd recommend that you test out version 6 and experience it, and go through that licensing process at a time when you will have to restart your server. You will have to go onto our website, but the process is completely you're able to do that without interacting with our support team or our sales team. If you have that supported license, you can go to our website, you can convert the license, and then you can redeploy a new license on your server.
Thanks, John. As I've been viewing some of the questions come in, there have been a lot about OPC UA, whether or not we're going to support our quick client with OPC UA or add functionality to our OPC UA support within the server itself. We are looking at a bunch of different options with OPC UA. I'm going to have to keep you in suspense at this point, but if you are interested in particular features, would request that you give us that information, pass it along to somebody at the sales team or within product management, which you could copy me on that email as well. We did have a question about the slide deck for this presentation. It will be sent out along with a link to a video of this in the next couple days as well. What else do we have going on? Quick question on how long KEPServer version 5 will be available. I believe that the answer is for the foreseeable future. Version 6 licenses will also work on version 5, so if you purchase a license, we're not going to, if your process is standardized on a particular version of version 5 because of testing and validation, we're not going to stop you from continuing to utilize that at this point. Right.
So any license that's been cut moving forward will run on both version 5 and version 6. And any license that's cut now will not have to be migrated. So if you had a license that we created 6 months ago or a year ago or 5 years ago, you do have to do that migration process, which I explained, but you can do that on our website. But any new license can be run on either 5 or 6.
Great. Question I'll answer right away. Can I get version 6? The answer is yes. It's available through our website as a download and runs in a time-limited mode up until the point that you license it. So you can use it for testing and evaluation. So I think we've just about gotten to the point we're going to close this off. Please send us any questions you have about version 6. We'd love to answer them in the future. Our applications engineers will probably stick for just a moment and answer some of the ones that have come in. But thank you all very much for your time, and we look forward to your feedback on version 6, and have a wonderful afternoon.